Welcome to Pillow Talk Dreams, where every night becomes a story and every story leads you to peace. If you love calm voices, gentle journeys, and stories that help you drift into dreams, then don't forget to subscribe and let your nights be a little softer. Now close your eyes and let the story begin. The Ghost Lights of Marfa, Texas. The road to Marfa, the road stretched endlessly before Elena Hartley as her rental car hummed softly along the quiet Texas highway. It was nearly dusk, the sky painted with shades of tangerine, rose, and lavender. The desert around her glowed with fading light, peaceful and ancient, as if nothing had disturbed it in centuries. Her GPS blinked with a final message. "Welcome to Marfa." Elena smiled softly. For most people, Marfa was a quirky little art town in the middle of nowhere. But for her, this trip had a deeper purpose. She'd come to write again, to escape the noise of life, to find stillness and maybe uncover something unusual, something real. And Marfa was known for one thing above all, the mysterious ghost lights. Lights that danced across the desert, lights with no source. Lights no one had ever explained. Elena loved mysteries, quiet ones that didn't demand answers but invited you to simply watch. As she approached town, the sun finally touched the horizon, stretching shadows across the road. A warm, gentle desert wind brushed against the car. She lowered the window slightly, letting the dry, peaceful air drift inside. Marfa appeared like a mirage, small, sleepy, and glowing under the last light of day. She passed the coffee shop, the tiny gallery, the empty diner with flickering neon letters. Everything felt calm, slowed down, as if time moved differently here. Her rental house was just outside town, a small casita with white adobe walls and a wooden porch facing the open desert. When she arrived, the quiet was so complete, so comforting that she simply stood for a moment, letting it settle around her. Inside, she unpacked slowly, deliberately. Laptop, diary, books, her camera. And then, almost by instinct, she stepped back outside. The desert night was arriving piece by piece, like a curtain being drawn across the sky. Stars flickered to life one by one. The air cooled. Elena wrapped her sweater around her shoulders and glanced toward the horizon, the direction of the famous viewing area where people claim to see the ghost lights. She whispered to herself, "Maybe tonight." With her notebook tucked under her arm, she began walking toward the desert trail behind the house. The earth beneath her feet was soft and sandy. The smell of sagebrush drifted lightly in the air. Everything felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. As the sky darkened, she reached a small rise in the land, giving her a clear view of the distant desert stretch. She sat on a warm rock, opened her notebook, and began to sketch the scene. The quiet hills, the shadowed ground, the faint outline of distant mountains. Then, slowly, something shifted in the darkness. A faint glow appeared far out across the desert, tiny at first, like a star that had accidentally fallen too low. Elena paused, her pen hovering above the page. The light pulsed softly, then brightened, then divided into two. Her breath caught. She knew the stories. Everyone knew the stories, unexplained lights that moved on their own, drifting like lanterns in the air, changing colors, vanishing suddenly. But seeing them with her own eyes, it was different. It felt real. It felt alive. The lights danced gently across the desert floor, weaving side to side. One glowed warm yellow, the other shimmered with a pale, ghostly white. They moved without sound, without rhythm, like floating orbs following some silent path. Elena leaned forward, fascinated, her heart beating softly but steadily. There was no fear, only wonder. The lights were strange, yes, but not threatening, almost soothing. Then she heard footsteps behind her, soft, slow, gentle. She turned. A man stood a few feet away, a tall figure with a weathered cowboy hat and a calm, steady expression. His boots barely made a sound on the sand. "Didn't mean to scare you," he said, his voice low and warm. Elena exhaled a small breath of relief. "It's okay. I thought I was alone." He nodded toward the horizon. "Most folks come out here hoping to see the lights. Looks like you got lucky on your first night." "You've seen them before?" she asked. He nodded slowly, eyes reflecting the glow in the distance. "More times than I can count." For a moment they both watched in silence as the lights drifted and pulsed. "What are they?" Elena finally whispered. The man's expression softened. "That's the question, isn't it? Some say they're spirits. Some say energy from the land. Some say it's just one of nature's tricks." He paused. "But stories say the lights are connected to the people who once lived out there. People who never quite left." Elena felt a soft shiver, not of fear, but of curiosity. "I'm Elena," she said quietly. He tipped his hat. "Name's Lucas Reed." The lights flared suddenly, brighter than before, almost as if acknowledging their conversation. For a moment, Elena felt something, a presence, not frightening, just aware. Lucas stepped a little closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "If you're planning to stay a while, you'll learn something about this desert." "What's that?" she asked. He looked at her with calm, steady eyes. "Out here, the quiet isn't empty, it's listening." A soft breeze rose, rustling the sagebrush. The ghost lights flickered once more before fading slowly, disappearing into the night as though swallowed by the earth. Elena let out a long, slow breath. She had come to Marfa for inspiration, maybe healing, maybe discovery. She hadn't expected the desert to answer so quickly. Lucas gave her a gentle nod. "You should head back before the coyotes start singing. This land gets colder than it looks," she smiled. "Will I see the lights again?" "Maybe," he said, "but they show themselves for a reason." "A reason?" Lucas tipped his hat again, turning to leave. "You'll find out." Then he walked into the darkness, quiet as a shadow. Elena remained on the rock for a while longer, listening to the night settle around her. The stars above shimmered like 1,000 small promises. The desert felt alive, humming faintly with secrets she couldn't name yet. Finally, she closed her notebook, stood, and began walking back toward her little house. Behind her, somewhere in the vast desert, something glowed faintly again. Just a small flicker, like a distant lantern guiding her home. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, Elena felt that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The next morning arrived quietly in Marfa. Elena woke to the soft warmth of sunlight slipping through the thin curtains of her small adobe bedroom. For a moment, she didn't move. She simply lay still, listening to the calm desert breeze whispering outside the window. No cars, no city noise, just peace. She stretched slowly, letting her body wake at its own pace. The memory of the ghost lights from the night before floated gently back into her mind, shimmering, drifting, pulsing across the desert like silent messengers. She could still feel the sense of calm they had left behind, like the desert had breathed something into her. After getting ready, she stepped onto the porch with a warm cup of coffee. The air smelled faintly of dust, sagebrush, and sunlight. Far in the distance, the desert stretched endlessly, untouched and serene. Out here, the quiet isn't empty. It's listening. Lucas's words replayed softly in her mind. Elena sat at the wooden porch table and opened her notebook. She had intended to write about the ghost lights, but instead her pencil drifted into sketching the shape of the desert, the silhouette of distant mountains, and a small figure standing alone, Lucas, watching the horizon. She didn't know him, not really, but he felt like someone who belonged to this land, someone who understood its silences. The morning moved slowly, comfortably. When she finally stepped outside to explore town, she carried her camera, a small water bottle, and her curiosity. Marfa in the daylight, Marfa in the daytime, looked entirely different than it had the night before. The pale adobe buildings glowed softly under the sun. Dusty streets stayed quiet. A few locals walked between the small grocery, the post office, and the cafe. Everything felt unhurried, like time had stretched thin and decided to stroll instead of run. Elena entered a small cafe called the Desert Lantern. Inside, the air was cool, filled with the comforting scent of brewed coffee and fresh muffins. The wooden tables were worn smooth from years of use, and sunlight streamed through the windows in soft golden beams. She ordered a warm cinnamon latte and sat near the window with her notebook. As she wrote, the cafe door opened with a gentle jingle. Lucas stepped inside. He looked different in daylight, less mysterious, more familiar, but still with that quiet steadiness in his eyes. He noticed her immediately and walked over with a small smile. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, surprised but not unhappy to see him. "Do you always appear randomly around town?" He laughed softly. "It's a small town. Hard to avoid people." He paused, then tipped his hat toward her notebook. "Working already?" "Trying to," she said. "I can't stop thinking about the lights." Lucas pulled out the chair across from her, waiting silently for permission. She nodded and he sat. "Most visitors see them once and leave," Lucas said. "But you took them in the way you watched." "I wanted to understand," she said quietly. "You don't understand the lights," he replied. "You listen to them." She studied him carefully. There was no teasing in his voice. He spoke as if this was a simple truth everyone accepted. "Have you lived here long?" she asked. "All my life," he said. "My family's been tied to this land for generations." There was something in his tone, soft, respectful, almost sacred, when he spoke of the desert. Before she could ask more, the cafe door opened again. An older woman with silver hair and gentle eyes stepped in. Lucas nodded to her politely. "That's Miss Donna," he whispered. "Knows more about the ghost lights than anyone else around." Elena felt a quiet spark of excitement. Donna approached their table after ordering tea. "You must be the writer from out of town," she said warmly to Elena. "Lucas mentioned someone new had seen the lights." Lucas blinked. "I didn't," Donna chuckled. "You don't have to. This place speaks for you." Elena laughed softly. I guess I'm easy to notice." Donna sat at the edge of their table, her hands wrapped around her warm cup. "You saw the lights on your first night. That means the desert wanted to say hello." Elena tilted her head. "What does that mean?" Donna took a slow sip before answering. "It means the land remembers you, even if you don't remember it." Elena felt a warm shiver. "I've never been here before." "Not in this lifetime," Donna whispered. Lucas shot her a gentle warning look, but Donna shook her head. "She deserves to know what she walked into." "Donna," Lucas said softly, "don't overwhelm her." Elena leaned forward, curiosity blooming. "I'm not overwhelmed, just curious." Donna studied her with eyes that felt older than the desert itself. "Marfa is a place where the past doesn't die. The ghost lights aren't just lights. They're memories, echoes, pieces of something that once mattered." "What do they want?" Elena asked. Donna smiled faintly. "To be seen, to be heard, to be remembered." Elena felt a soft pressure in her chest, gentle, like someone placing a warm hand over her heart. "Last night," she began slowly, "the lights didn't feel frightening, they felt peaceful." Lucas nodded. "They usually do, they've never harmed anyone." "But they don't show themselves to everyone," Donna added. "They choose," Elena asked. Donna reached out and gently touched Elena's notebook. Writers, dreamers, people who listen without demanding answers. The lights tend to find people like that. Elena swallowed softly. What if I want to see them again? She asked. Lucas leaned back slightly, studying her expression. You will, but they show up when something needs to be shown. The way he said it felt like a promise and a warning at the same time. Donna stood and picked up her tea. Enjoy the town, dear. And if the lights visit you again, don't be afraid. They're older than fear. When she left, Elena felt the room grow quieter. Lucas folded his hands on the table. Donna means well, she's just spiritual. I like it, Elena said softly. All of it, the mystery, the calm, the feeling that something unseen is watching over the land. Lucas gave her a small smile. Most people feel that way when they stay long enough. Elena hesitated, then asked, Will you show me more of the desert, the places where people see the lights? Lucas considered her for a moment, then nodded. Tomorrow evening. The desert's different at night, but I'll make sure you're safe. Why tomorrow? She asked. Because tonight, he said quietly, the lights will be moving somewhere else. Somewhere else. Elena's curiosity deepened. But don't worry, Lucas added. They'll come back. He stood and tipped his hat. See you tomorrow. As he left the cafe, Elena felt a calm excitement settle over her. The desert wasn't done speaking, and she wasn't done listening. She spent the rest of the day wandering through small art galleries, meeting gentle local artists, and capturing quiet photos of the desert streets. Every moment felt unhurried, peaceful, like the world had slowed to match the steady pulse of the land. But when night returned, she stepped out onto her porch again. The stars glowed fiercely overhead. The air was cool and clear. She held her breath. Far out on the horizon, for just a moment, a tiny light flickered, softly, gently, like a whisper of recognition. And though it vanished again, Elena felt certain the ghost lights remembered her, and they would return. Elena slept deeper that night than she had in months. The desert had a way of holding silence gently, like a blanket placed over the world. When morning came, it arrived with the soft glow of sunrise stretching across the pale adobe walls of her room. For a moment, she simply breathed, slow, steady, peaceful, but a subtle feeling tugged at her chest, a pull, a faint whisper in her mind, as if something out there, somewhere in the wide, quiet desert, was calling to her. She rose, showered, and made tea. The warm steam curled into the cool morning air as she stepped onto the porch. The desert looked endless, glowing under the soft gold of daybreak. Her eyes drifted to the horizon. Nothing, only stillness. Yet the feeling remained. By noon, she found herself wandering through town again. Marfa's small streets felt familiar now. Dusty sidewalks, pastel-colored buildings, and quiet local shops that seemed to nod as she passed by. She entered a small art gallery filled with desert landscapes painted in deep blues and sunset reds. A soft chime sounded as she stepped inside. A man behind the counter looked up with a friendly smile. You must be Elena, he said. She blinked. How do you know my name? Lucas mentioned you might stop by, he said. Said you're curious about the lights. Elena smiled softly. Is everyone in this town connected? In a place this small, he said with a chuckle, we're all threads in the same blanket. Elena walked slowly through the gallery. Most paintings were of the desert, still and vast, but one caught her attention immediately. A dark canvas, two ghostly orbs drifting above the land, a faint outline of mountains, and a small figure sitting on a rock. She stepped closer. The figure looked like her. Not exactly, just the shape, the posture, the way the hair fell, but it was unmistakable. When was this painted? She asked softly. 2 years ago, the man said. The artist wanted to capture the feeling of the lights choosing someone. Sometimes they linger near a soul who listens. Elena swallowed. Do the lights choose people often? Rarely, he said. But when they do, it's never random. She stared at the painting a little longer, feeling something warm and ancient stirring inside her chest. The desert walk later that afternoon, she went for a walk behind her casita. The land stretched endlessly, dotted with scrub brush and smooth stones warmed by the sun. The wind hummed quietly, brushing against her skin with a soft touch. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she felt something like a presence moving gently around her, like someone walking beside her but leaving no footsteps. A warmth, a familiarity, as if the desert were greeting her personally. She whispered, "I'm here." Her voice vanished into the breeze, but the warm feeling remained. Then faintly, so faint she thought she imagined it, "Elena." Her eyes snapped open. No one was there, but the whisper felt real, not frightening, more like someone calling her name from a great distance through layers of time. Elena. A soft, warm shiver ran through her entire body. She stepped forward slowly, almost following the whisper without thinking. The desert air felt different now, denser, like the world was holding its breath. Then a flicker of light. Far away, barely visible in the brightness of afternoon, a small orb shimmered. It wasn't bright like at night, just a pale, silvery glow floating above the ground. It lingered, it pulsed, it waited, then it vanished. Elena pressed a hand over her heart. She didn't feel afraid, she felt numb. Evening comes by the time the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft orange and lavender. Elena waited on the porch for Lucas. She didn't know if he would actually come, but something told her he would. And he did. His truck pulled up slowly, its tires crunching quietly across the dirt. Lucas stepped out, tipping his hat with a small smile. "You ready?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "more ready than I thought." He noticed something in her expression, something softer, deeper. "You saw something today," he said gently. She hesitated. "A light in the afternoon." Lucas's eyebrows rose. "Afternoon sightings are rare." "It called my name," she whispered. Lucas grew still. The air grew still. Even the breeze seemed to pause. "Elena," he said slowly, "has anything like this ever happened to you before? Any sense of déjà vu? Dreams that feel older than you are?" She swallowed. "Why? Because when the lights call someone by name," Lucas said quietly, "it usually means they've been waiting for that person for a long time." Her breath caught in her throat. "Waiting for me." "Why?" Lucas exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't know, but the desert, it remembers souls, sometimes far better than people do." She looked out toward the horizon. "Then I want to know why," she said softly. Lucas nodded once. "Come, I'll take you to a place where the lights began. At least, that's what the stories say." The old ridge the truck drove slowly along a dirt path leading deeper into the desert. As night fully settled, the sky opened into a blanket of stars, bright, endless, almost close enough to touch. Lucas drove in silence, letting the night speak for itself. After nearly half an hour, he stopped the truck near a ridge of smooth desert rocks that rose from the earth like ancient bones. "This is one of the oldest parts of the land," Lucas said. "My great-grandfather used to say the lights were born here." Elena stepped out. The air was cool now, brushing her skin gently. The desert stretched quiet around them. She climbed a few steps up the ridge until she had a clear view of the vast horizon. And then, softly, silently, a light appeared. Then another. 2 orbs drifted gently across the dark desert floor. Elena sat without realizing it. Her breath slowed, her heartbeat softened. The world around her felt distant, yet deeply, profoundly connected. Lucas sat beside her a moment later. The lights brightened faintly, acknowledging her. Then one drifted a little closer. Lucas whispered, "They're reacting to you." The orb shimmered and pulsed, and Elena heard it again, a whisper, gentle, faint, but unmistakable, "Elena," her eyes filled with warm tears. Not from fear, from recognition. She whispered, "Who are you?" The light brightened, one singular warm pulse as if answering. Lucas watched silently, his face soft but serious. "I think," he whispered, "you're connected to them more than you know." The lights drifted slowly across the night, gentle and patient, as if waiting for her to remember something lost long ago. Elena placed her hand against her heart. Something was beginning, something she didn't yet understand, but she could feel it, soft, ancient, and calling her back. The following morning arrived with a softness that felt almost unreal. Elena woke slowly, drifting up from a dream she couldn't fully remember. A dream filled with pale lights floating through endless desert, whispering voices she almost recognized. She sat up, rubbed her eyes, and listened. Silence, but not empty. The desert seemed to hum with a low, steady presence, like the quiet breathing of something ancient and patient. She stepped outside onto the porch, the wood cool beneath her bare feet. The early light wrapped the land in soft gold, stretching shadows across the ground like long, gentle fingers. For the first time since arriving, she felt a sense of belonging, as if the desert had slowly accepted her into its stillness. She made tea, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and watched the sun rise, taking in the slow unfolding of light across the land. And then she felt it again, that tug, that gentle pull in her chest, as if the desert was calling her name without sound. "Elena," she froze. The whisper wasn't heard with her ears. It was felt, soft, warm inside her mind, like a memory not yet remembered. She closed her eyes and breathed. "Who are you?" she whispered into the morning air. No answer came, but the warmth in her chest stayed. A reminder, the lights were not done with her. A visit from Donna later that afternoon, as Elena sorted through her notes at the small dining table. Someone knocked gently at the door. When she opened it, Donna stood there, her silver hair tied loosely behind her shoulders, her eyes warm and full of something like knowing. "Elena," Donna said softly, "do you have a moment?" "Yes, of course. Please come in." The older woman stepped inside, her presence bringing a sense of calm that settled into the room like a soft blanket. She studied the space, noticing Elena's open notebook, the photographs scattered across the table, and the little sketches of glowing orbs. "You've been busy," Donna said with a small smile. "I'm trying to understand," Elena replied. Donna nodded slowly. "Understanding doesn't come from the mind, not with things like this. You feel your way through, not think your way through." Elena bit her lip. "Donna," the lights whispered my name. Donna's eyes softened. "I know," she said. "I felt it this morning." "You felt it. The desert changes when the lights reach out," Donna explained. "The air hums differently. The wind behaves differently. And if you've lived long enough in a place like this, you learn to sense it." Elena sat down across from her. "Why me?" Donna's fingers traced the grain of the table gently. "Some souls are tied to certain lands. Some people hear things others cannot, and some have unfinished stories." Elena's chest tightened. "Stories?" Donna looked at her with deep, quiet eyes. "The lights don't call to strangers. They call to those they remember." Elena whispered. "Remember from what?" Donna took Elena's hand softly. "From before." A chill, soft but profound, ran through Elena. Before she could ask more, Donna rested a folded piece of paper on the table. "This," she said, "was found years ago. One of my ancestors wrote it down after seeing the lights call to another soul. Maybe it will help you." Elena unfolded the paper. The handwriting was neat, though faded with age. "When the lights whisper a name, it is because the desert holds a memory of that soul, a life once lived, a promise once made, a story not yet finished." Elena swallowed. Donna touched her shoulder gently. Whenever you're ready to know the truth, the desert will show you, but it will come in its own time. She squeezed Elena's hand. And you are not alone. Donna stood, giving her a gentle smile before leaving the house as quietly as she had entered. When the door shut, the silence felt warm, not empty, not frightening, comforting, as if the desert itself had wrapped around her. Evening meeting with Lucas arrived just as the sky began to shift toward dusk. The sunset stretched across the horizon in soft lavender and pale pinks, the kind of colors that made the world feel like it was slowing down. He stepped out of his truck, watching her carefully. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Donna visited. She tends to do that," he said with a small smile. "She said the desert remembers people." Lucas's expression grew thoughtful. "It does, in ways we don't always understand." He gestured toward the passenger side of his truck. "Ready for another walk?" She nodded and climbed in. The quiet trail Lucas drove only a short distance this time, stopping near a narrow trail that wound between two small ridges. The sky above was deepening, stars appearing one by one. As they walked, the desert around them grew quieter. The air cooled. A soft wind brushed through the sagebrush with a sound like distant whispers. Elena felt a familiar tug in her chest. Lucas noticed. "They're close," he said quietly. "How can you tell?" His eyes softened. "Because the air changes when they're near. The same way you can tell a storm is coming, not because you see it, but because you feel it." Elena nodded, her heartbeat slowing, steadying into the peaceful rhythm of the desert. They climbed to a small plateau overlooking a wide, open stretch of land. "This is one of their favorite places," Lucas said. "Been that way since before anyone kept records." Elena sat on a warm rock, letting the last of the sun kiss her skin before disappearing below the horizon. And then the first light appeared, soft, pale, gentle, floating just above the desert floor. Another appeared beside it. Lucas sat next to her without speaking. The lights drifted slowly, like lanterns carried by an invisible current. They pulsed faintly in and out as if breathing. Elena felt warmth fill her chest again. Then one orb drifted closer. Slowly, carefully, she held her breath. The light hovered only a few feet away now, glowing like a small sun in the dark. It pulsed once, warm and soft. "Elena," the whisper filled her mind. Her eyes blurred with tears, quiet, warm tears that slid down her cheeks without sadness, without fear. Only recognition. Something buried deep within her stirred. She reached out. Her hand didn't touch the light, but it came closer. So close she felt a gentle warmth on her skin. A soft image flickered in her mind, a desert at dusk, a woman who looked like her, standing alone, waiting, hoping, calling someone's name. Then the image vanished. "Elena," Lucas whispered. She blinked, breath trembling. "I saw something." "What did you see?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but it felt like a memory." Lucas took a slow breath. "The lights are showing you something. They're remembering you." She turned to him. "What does that mean, Lucas?" His voice was quiet, steady. "It means your story with this desert didn't begin here." He touched his hand gently to her chest. "And it won't end here." The light pulsed once more, full of warmth, full of meaning, and then drifted slowly back into the darkness. Elena watched until the glow faded completely. She knew one thing for certain. Something in this desert knew her. Something in the ghost lights remembered her. And she was getting closer to discovering why. The next morning arrived softly, with a pale gold glow spreading across the Marfa plains like a warm whisper. The desert always woke slowly, as if remembering itself one color at a time. First the faint rose on the horizon, then the quiet gold, then the deepening blue that stretched endlessly above. Elena stepped outside the observatory, a cup of warm chamomile tea in her hands. She breathed deeply, letting the cool morning air fill her lungs. Even after everything she had seen, something about Marfa still calmed her, still held her gently, the way a quiet desert morning holds all its secrets. Behind her, Tom stepped out, stretching. "Another night without answers," he murmured. "I'm starting to think the desert doesn't want to share them." Elena smiled softly. "Or maybe we're only hearing half the story." Tom looked at her curiously. "You believe that old woman, the one who said the lights follow certain people?" "Yes," Elena admitted, "because they followed me." The memory of the lights hovering silently behind her Jeep the night before flickered in her mind, calm, gentle, almost protective. Not hostile, not random, intentional. Tom stared out at the open plains. "My granddad used to say the lights were born from old spirits, things that walked the land long before us. People thought he was telling stories, but sometimes," he lowered his voice, "sometimes I wonder if he knew something." Elena turned toward him. "What happened to him?" Tom's expression softened, as though the air itself quieted to listen. "He disappeared," he said simply. "One night he followed the lights and he never came back. Folks said he wandered too far into the desert, but my family always believed the lights took him somewhere else." A gentle breeze brushed past them, stirring the sagebrush with a soft sigh. Inside the observatory, the equipment hummed faintly, waiting. Footsteps approached from behind and Matteo appeared in the doorway. He looked tired but hopeful, like someone holding onto a thread of truth. "There's something I want to show you both," he said. They followed him inside. On the central table, Matteo had pinned several printed frames, images from the video footage Elena recorded the night before. Except there was something new, something unusual. "What is that?" Elena whispered. In each frame, the Marfa lights, smooth, round, glowing, hovered at the edge of the shot. But now, zoomed in, something faintly visible swirled inside the glow. Not just light, not energy, a pattern, like a shape trying to form. A symbol. Tom leaned closer. "Is it some kind of reflection?" "No," Matteo said softly. "I checked. It's part of the light itself." Elena traced the symbol with her eyes swirling, looping, almost like a piece of writing. Desert wind pressed gently against the observatory walls, as if reacting to the symbol itself. Matteo cleared his throat. "There's more. I found this last night while going through old town recordings." He played an audio clip. It was crackly old, but a voice emerged, a man speaking slowly, reverently. "It ain't just lights, they're messages, warnings, echoes of the ones who walked before." The recording ended abruptly. Tom swallowed. "Who was that?" "My dad," Matteo said quietly. "Recorded years ago, before he disappeared." A heavy silence filled the observatory, wrapping around them like a blanket. Elena felt a tug inside her, not fear but connection. The lights weren't random phenomena. They weren't tricks of the eye or accidents of nature. They were trying to say something. She turned toward Tom and Matteo. "Tonight," she said firmly, "we follow them, but carefully." Together, Tom exhaled slowly, nodding. "My granddad always said the desert listens, and tonight we'll listen back." Matteo adjusted the lenses. "I'll get the equipment ready. Whatever happens, we'll capture it." As the sun rose fully, spilling warm brightness across the desert, the three of them stood quietly at the observatory window. Far out on the horizon, just above the morning haze, a faint shimmer pulsed once, soft and distant, like a heartbeat waiting to be answered. Elena felt the whisper of wind against her cheek. Tonight the desert would speak, and she was ready to hear it. The stone lay in Elena's hands like a heartbeat captured in solid form, warm, smooth, and impossibly old. Even as the desert night cooled around them, the stone held a gentle heat, pulsing faintly, as if memories lived inside it. Tom watched it with wide, quiet eyes. "It doesn't feel like normal rock," he whispered. "Feels alive." Mateo knelt beside them in the sand, gently brushing away the last bits of dust. "It's not from any geological layer around Marfa," he said. "This kind of stone doesn't match the desert at all." Elena held the stone closer to the moonlight. The carved symbol glowed faintly, just enough to shimmer, just enough to suggest something hidden within. A swirling pattern, a loop that didn't quite close, lines that breathed instead of staying still. She traced it lightly with her thumb. The stone warmed under her touch as though responding. Tom stepped back uneasily. "It's reacting to you," Elena swallowed. "It reacted to the lights first, then to me." Mateo stood and dusted off his hands. "We should get it back to the observatory. I want to run spectral scans." Tom shook his head. "I don't think machines are going to explain that thing." Still, they packed the equipment and headed toward the jeep. The desert stretched quiet and endless around them, but something in the air had changed, like a sound too low to hear, a vibration just beneath the skin. Halfway back, the wind shifted. A soft gust drifted across the plains, carrying with it a distant hum. Elena lifted her head. Tom froze. Mateo's grip tightened on the sensor. The hum grew, soft, rhythmic, like a whisper layered with another whisper, like two distant voices speaking at once. "I know that sound," Tom murmured. "My granddad used to describe it." The whispering tone washed over them, weaving gently through the desert like an old lullaby. Not threatening, not frightening, just ancient. Elena held the stone close. The hum strengthened. Then, faint but clear, another pulse of light shimmered across the horizon, soft and slow. Just one light this time. It hovered alone in the darkness, not drifting, not moving. Waiting. Tom's breath hitched. "That's the same color my granddad described the night he disappeared." Mateo turned on the sensor. The screen flickered with unusual readings, energy levels shifting like waves. "This is different from last night," he said softly. "More focused." Elena stepped forward. The lone light pulsed once, gently, as though greeting her. The stone in her hand vibrated, a slow, warm tremor like a sleeping heart awakening. "Elena," Tom said cautiously, "be careful." But she felt something she couldn't explain, like the light knew her, recognized her, or remembered something that belonged to her long before she walked these sands. She took a single step closer. The light brightened, not harshly, not suddenly, but softly, as though welcoming her presence. A warm wind wrapped around her, fluttering her hair and brushing across her skin in a way that felt almost affectionate. "I'm not scared," Elena whispered. Tom exhaled shakily. "I am." The light drifted slightly lower, aligning itself with the stone she held. The symbol on the stone glowed. The light pulsed in perfect rhythm. Mateo stared, stunned. "It's communicating, matching frequency." The stone warmed further, glowing softly beneath Elena's fingers. She realized something then, something important. "It's not a message," she said quietly. "It's a memory," Tom frowned. "What do you mean?" "The stone, the symbol, the way the lights react. It's all connected. This stone, it remembers whatever the lights are trying to show us." The lone light pulsed again, once, twice, brighter each time. Then slowly, gracefully, it drifted backward toward the deeper desert. Inviting, calling, Tom stepped in front of Elena. "No, absolutely not. Following it is how my granddad disappeared." Mateo set down the scanner. "And my father?" The night grew still. The light waited. Elena looked at the stone, then at the glowing orb, then at the two men beside her. "We don't follow it blindly," she said softly. "We follow it together, slowly, carefully. And if anything feels wrong, we stop." Tom looked torn, fear flickering across his face like a shadow. Mateo studied the light with quiet reverence. Finally, Tom exhaled. "Fine, but we stay close. No splitting up." The light pulsed gently as though approving. They walked, step by step, across the soft sand, past the low shrubs, deeper into the quiet vastness of the desert. The night felt strangely alive, humming beneath their feet, whispering through the air. The light led them to a place where the ground dipped slightly, forming a shallow basin surrounded by smooth rocks. At the center of the basin lay something buried, half covered by sand, just like the stone they had found earlier. The light hovered above it. Elena knelt and brushed away the sand. Another stone, larger, smoother, carved with a second symbol different from the first, yet connected like two parts of a sentence. She lifted it gently. The moment both stones were in her hands, the air changed. Wind swept outward in a soft circular wave. The desert hummed deeper. Stars flickered overhead like awakened eyes. The lone light brightened, soaring upward, then split, becoming three lights, spinning slowly around the stones in a calm, gentle spiral. Tom whispered, voice trembling, "Elena, what is happening?" Elena stood slowly, holding both stones. "They're giving us the next piece," she said softly. The lights swirled once more, then scattered across the desert sky in three elegant streaks, fading into the stars. The wind settled. The night quieted. Matteo touched the new stone with trembling fingers. "These symbols, Elena, they're telling a story." Elena nodded, feeling the warmth of both stones radiating through her palms. "And we're just beginning to understand it." Above them, the sky glowed faintly, just for a moment, as though something ancient and unseen had opened its eyes. The next morning arrived slowly, as if the desert needed time to settle after the night's strange awakening. Pale gold light stretched across the horizon, painting the low hills in soft amber. Elena sat outside the observatory with both stones resting gently in her lap, their carved symbols catching the dawn light. They seemed to glow faintly, even in daylight. Tom stepped outside carrying 2 cups of warm herbal tea. He handed one to her, but his eyes never left the stones. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked. Elena shook her head. "Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the symbols. They feel like pieces of something bigger, like I'm holding pages of a book that wants to be read." Tom sat beside her. "My granddad used to say the lights could show you things you weren't ready to understand until the right moment. Maybe this is your moment, Elena." She looked at him gently. "Do you think your granddad followed the lights because they called him the way they're calling me?" Tom hesitated. "I don't know if it was a calling or if he just couldn't stay away." He sipped his tea. "But last night, with you, that was different. The lights weren't leading you away." He lifted his eyes to hers. "They were guiding you." The observatory door opened softly and Matteo stepped out, rubbing his eyes from another sleepless night of analyzing the stones. "Elena," he called softly, "I found something." She stood and followed him inside. Tom came behind her. Inside the main room, several digital screens displayed magnifications of the 2 symbols. Matteo zoomed in on the swirling lines. "These aren't random carvings," he said. "They're part of a sequence. Look," he overlaid the 2 symbols digitally. Slowly, carefully, the swirling lines began to align, curving, connecting, forming a larger pattern. Tom leaned closer. "It's like a map," Matteo nodded. "Or instructions." Elena stared at the combined symbol. It pulsed gently on the screen, almost like the stones themselves were breathing. "Is this why the lights showed us where to find the second one?" she murmured. Matteo walked to the window and looked out toward the plains. "There's more," he said. "Energy readings from last night show 2 spikes, one when you touched the first stone, and another when you found the second." He turned to face her. "Elena, the lights weren't just guiding you. They were activating something." Elena felt a soft shiver move through A memory sparked in the back of her mind. Her grandmother's voice telling her old stories of places that remembered things long forgotten, places that carried the echoes of the earth itself. "What if," she said softly, "the desert remembers?" Tom frowned. "Remembers what?" Elena placed the stones gently on the table. "Everything," she whispered. "Everything that walked here before, everything that was lost, everything the sky ever touched." Mateo's eyes softened. "That would make these stones something like memory anchors." Elena nodded. "And the lights are the messengers." The room fell silent. The desert wind brushed softly against the observatory windows as though listening. Tom exhaled and rubbed his face. "So what now? What do the lights want us to do with these stones?" Elena looked at the symbols glowing on the screen. "They want us to find the next piece." Before anyone could respond, Mateo's sensor, still running on the far table, beeped sharply. All three heads turned. The digital map lit up, flashing with a new reading, stronger, clearer, steadier than last night's. Tom tensed. "That's the same signal as before." Mateo checked the coordinates. "It's coming from the desert ridge, the exact place where your granddad disappeared." The air in the room tightened. Tom stepped back as if the words had pushed against his chest. "Elena, that place is dangerous." Elena lifted the stones. They warmed slightly in her palms, glowing faintly. "They're reacting," she whispered. "They want us to go." Tom shook his head. "No, I promised myself I'd never step foot on that ridge again." Mateo looked between them, torn. "Elena, if that's where the third stone, or whatever it is located, then we have to go before the signal fades." Tom's hands trembled slightly. "It's not just a place. People vanished there, my granddad, Mateo's father. 2 hikers years ago, and no one ever found anything, not a trace." Elena stepped toward him, her voice soft, grounding, warm. "I won't let anything happen to you. Not you, not Mateo, not me. We're not going alone. We're going with the lights." Tom closed his eyes, battling something heavy inside him, fear, memory, grief. Finally, he opened them again. The fear was still there, yes, but so was resolve. "All right," he whispered, "but we stick together. Every step." Elena nodded. "We will." Mateo grabbed the scanner. "Then we need to leave soon. The signal is strongest just after sunset." They packed quickly. Water, lights, equipment, the 2 stones carefully wrapped. As the sun descended toward the horizon, the sky shifted to deep violet, the first stars shimmering awake. Elena paused outside the observatory and looked at the wide open desert. A soft breeze brushed across the plains. And then, just as twilight settled, 3 soft glowing orbs appeared above the ridge. Tom inhaled sharply. The same color as before. The lights pulsed once, slow, gentle, inviting. Mateo whispered almost reverently, "They're waiting." Elena tightened her grip on the stones. "Then let's go." They walked into the deepening night, toward the ridge where the desert held its oldest memory, where secrets had been kept for generations, where lights called to those who could hear them. The stones warmed in her hands. The lights hovered like patient guardians. The desert watched with ancient eyes. And somewhere beneath the sand and centuries, the final piece waited to be found. The ridge rose before them like a sleeping giant, its silhouette etched against the deepening twilight. The sky above shimmered with faint stars, and the desert below stretched in every direction. Quiet, endless, listening. Elena walked at the front, the 2 stones warm in her hands. Each step felt guided by something older than the sands beneath their feet, something that had waited a long time to be found. Tom followed close behind her, his eyes darting between the ridge and the 3 pale orbs drifting above it. "They're leading us straight to the spot," he whispered. "The exact spot where my granddad disappeared." Mateo held the scanner at his side, the small screen lighting his face. The signal is growing stronger. Whatever we're meant to find, it's here. As they reached the base of the ridge, the three lights floated lower, gentle, slow, like lanterns showing the way. Elena felt the air shift around her. Not colder, not warmer, just deeper, thicker. As if they were stepping into a moment suspended in time. The wind stilled, the desert quieted, the lights hovered in place, waiting. Elena lifted the stones. Immediately, the stones glowed, softly at first, then brighter, the carved symbols lighting up with a golden shimmer that spread across the surface like waking fire. Mateo stepped closer, barely breathing. Elena, look. She turned her gaze to the ridge floor. There, half buried beneath centuries of sand, lay a third stone, larger than the others, smoother, its symbol faint beneath the dust, waiting to be remembered. Tom froze. That was never there before. The lights pulsed as if urging them on. Elena knelt and brushed away the sand. The stone hummed faintly beneath her fingertips, vibrating softly in a rhythm that felt familiar, like the beating of distant wings, or the echo of a memory she hadn't lived but somehow still knew. She lifted the stone, and when its symbol caught the air, the desert changed. Wind swirled softly around them, spiraling upward in a slow, graceful dance. The sky shimmered, its stars glowing brighter, as if leaning closer. Tom stepped back. "I feel something," he whispered, "like the air's alive." Mateo stared upward, awestruck. "No, not the air, the stones." Elena held all three stones in her hands. As she brought them together, their symbols aligned, forming a single, intricate pattern, swirls connected to loops, lines flowing into curves, each piece completing the last. A whole symbol, a forgotten symbol, a symbol the lights had been trying to reveal. The moment the final pattern formed, the three floating orbs brightened and descended, circling Elena in slow, deliberate arcs. The desert floor beneath her shimmered with light, spreading outward like ripples in still water. Tom could barely speak. "Elena, what's happening?" Elena's voice came out soft, steady, "Sir. They're showing us their memory." The stones vibrated with a warm, expanding glow, and suddenly light swept across the ridge. Not blinding, not harsh, soft, wrapping them in warmth and silence. And through that light, visions emerged. Shapes, figures, shadows of people long gone. They walked the land long before Marfa existed. Travelers, hunters, families moving across the plains. Their footsteps glowed like sparks on the earth. Then came another vision. Bright swirling orbs drifting above the desert, watching over the people below. The ancient ones reached toward the lights, just as Elena had. The lights responded with gentle pulses. Tom whispered, "They've been here for thousands of years." The vision shifted again. The people carved symbols onto stones, three symbols, not words, not warnings, but pieces of a story, pieces of a promise kept between the earth and sky. The stones were placed along the desert, meant to be found by those who still listened, those who could hear the land's memory. Elena felt tears slip down her cheeks. "They weren't guiding us to danger," she whispered. "They were guiding us to truth." The vision faded. The soft desert night returned. The three stones glowed in her hands, their symbols now bright and whole. Then from the shimmering air before them, two figures appeared, not physical, not ghostly, made of soft, glowing light. One stood tall, wearing the faint outline of an old hat, a familiar shape, a shape Tom recognized immediately. His breath caught. "Granddad," he whispered. The figure turned gently toward him, and though it had no face, no features, Tom felt it, a warmth, a presence, a message of peace. Beside that figure, another appeared smaller, equally gentle, with familiar posture and the trace of a warm glow around the hands. Mateo stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "Dad," he whispered. "Oh my God, Dad." The figures drifted closer, their edges softening, their light pulsing in a slow, comforting rhythm. Elena clutched the stones, understanding now. "They weren't taken," she said softly. "They returned. They became part of the light, part of the desert's memory." Tom wiped his eyes with trembling hands. Is that what happens to everyone who
disappears here?" Mateo shook his head. "Not lost. Not gone. Just home." The figures pulsed gently, almost like a nod. Then their forms dissolved softly into the night, fading upward, into the three hovering lights. The orbs pulsed once more. Tom stepped forward. "What are they trying to say?" Elena closed her eyes and breathed. "They're saying goodbye." The lights drifted upward, higher and higher, until they merged with the stars. Three faint sparks joining the galaxy above. The desert fell quiet. Only the warm hum of the stones remained. Tom wiped his face and let out a long, shaky breath. "I thought he died alone in the desert." But he wasn't alone. He was home. Mateo placed a hand on his shoulder, and he helped us find the truth. Elena looked at the stones in her hands. "We have to return these," she said softly, "back to where they belong." They placed all three stones gently into the shallow basin at the ridge, arranging them the way the lights had shown. As soon as they touched the earth, the symbols glowed one final time. Soft gold, warm, peaceful. The glow settled into the sand. The desert sighed with relief. The stones became still once more. Tom whispered, "It's over." Elena smiled softly. "No," she said. "It's remembered." The three walked back toward the observatory, the stars shining brighter above them than ever before. And though the desert grew still behind them, Elena felt a presence in the air, an echo of old guardians watching from the horizon, patient and kind. The Marfa lights would return again someday, not as mysteries, but as memories, as guides, as guardians, as whispers of the desert's ancient heart. Elena looked back one last time, the wind brushing softly against her cheek. In the distance, for the briefest shimmer of a moment, one tiny orb of light pulsed gently. A farewell, a promise, a glow born from all that the desert remembered. And then it was gone. But the memory stayed, forever.